We are back and better than ever. I am in Indianapolis, Indiana for the NFL Combine. This is my 413th year. You know how long I've been coming? I was trying to figure out the other day, like, how many cities have I been in and which one have I been in the most? It might be Indianapolis.
With the Combine being there every year, and it has been for whatever. I mean, since it
as
started,
long as I've done the
basically.
beat, which is 100 years, as long as I've done the beat.
Owners' meetings move around. Obviously, the games move around. You go to New Orleans and Carolina and Atlanta every year, but it's basically one day or a day and a half, whatever.
Yeah.
But Indy, every year, you're going for a couple days at least.
Mhm.
And then there's been you've had games there and such like that. It might be Indy.
It might be my adoptive new home city. I don't know why. But I do know this town, although it's a great walking city. What's great about Indianapolis, of course, we've explained this on the podcast before, that it was chosen because of its, central to the United States. And originally it started as a place for all the doctors to come and examine the draft picks that were coming out in the draft and get the medicals. It was all about the medicals, right? So they could all fly here, et cetera. And then it became a workouts, and then it's the big extravaganza that's televised today. But and I've done the whole thing where I told you there's like 12 of us standing outside a Holiday Inn, and Gil Brandt would bring players to us. But it really is. It's a great walking city. I was here for one Super Bowl, and I got deathly ill. And sadly, it wasn't St. Elmo's fault, but I got deathly ill right after St. Elmo's, and so that didn't work out very well. But I have it's a perfect city for this, because Lucas Oil Stadium is essentially almost attached to the convention center, which is where they do a lot of the interviews and things like that, and press conferences. So it's worked out really well. But yeah, and we talked about the stories. So many different things have happened up here with respect to the Bucs. The Lovie Smith, proclaiming that they were okay with everything that Jameis Winston has done. Concerns be damned. And Bruce Arians with the, looking behind door number 2, and he would pick up the phone for Tom Brady and that sort of thing. But it's really about, interviewing the draft picks, or, the guys they might draft. And but actually the real deal making is this week in the hotels and the bars throughout Indianapolis. And there are many. It's one of those places where any steak chain you can name, they have. And then of course they got the local flavors like St. Elmo's and others. But there's also, like a ton of hotels, and the Bucs I think are at the Conrad, and each one has its own, sort of bistro bar, different, and so the agents meet with the general managers. And not that there's tampering going on. I don't want to like inflame anybody and accuse anybody of that. But there is conversations. And if you're the Bucs and you're talking about Chris Godwin, then this is the time to meet with his agent, and talk about perhaps a contract extension, because they could have voided his contract. They extended that void date to the start of the new league year, which is March 12th, I think, this year. And so, this would be the week, right? Like, all the agents are here. Many of them have to get certified, I think, this week, but they're in Indianapolis. And so you get a chance to sit and talk to those guys, and talk to other agents. Again, not that tampering goes on. But there's a feeling that, there might be, in the next 7 to 10 days, a lot of deals made, right? Because, you know, the salary cap is going up considerably, like somewhere between 277.5 million to 281.5 million. So it's going up by as much as like $22.5 million. And so now everybody's kind of flush with cash. The Bucs, according to overthecap.com, they have 8.4 million in space, but that does not include, restructuring deals with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield Jr. So they can do whatever they want. I mean, they'll have, that's like another $60 million on top of the 8.4 that they're over the cap now. We've talked about Godwin. I think Godwin up here, even though this is about looking at rookies and evaluating them and interviewing them, and so all that's going to take place this week. But it's also about, you know, trying to finalize a deal if you can make one with some of your own free agents. And I really think that that starts with Chris Godwin. For all the reasons we talked about in the past. And, he may choose to go out there and they may disagree on value. And so he may choose to go out there and see if Jacksonville or Carolina or somebody will, blow his doors off. But if you're the Bucs, you want to try to get that locked down and get him signed before the start of free agency. So this is a big week for that. And I think there'll be a lot of deals done. There's some interesting things throughout the league with Matthew Stafford. Is he going to stay with the Rams? Is there a team that, is going to take him on? A lot of quarterback talk, of course, which is always the case up here. So it's a great week for fantasy football. A lot of teams feel like, what the Steelers need a quarterback, and um, you know, if the Rams were to lose Stafford, what would they do? And what about Minnesota and Sam Darnold? Right? Are they going to move on from him? Are they going to try to franchise him for another year? So there's a lot of intrigue this week, and I think it'll start to settle out as we get later in the week at the combine. But it's also about the rookies too, and that's the main thing that everybody's here to do, is to interview those guys. Now, when you're picking 19th, and of course, we know the Bucs are looking for an outside linebacker, and so they'll be very defense centric, I think, when it comes to that first round pick. But the Bucs have done such a great job over the last 3-4 years of getting guys like a Bucky Irving right in the fourth round. I mean, you think about Jalen McMillan last year. So their rookies have really stepped up, and it all starts here at the combine with the interviews, with the workouts, and of course the biggest thing is the tape, and that's what they really rely on. But it's always an interesting week. Like, not as many coaches come here as they used to. In some teams, like I think the Rams did this going back a few years, where they just didn't send anybody, which was unusual, right? But they felt like, we'll do the interviews a different way. We can get all the tapes and all the workout tapes and the 40 times and all that from the combine. We'll send our doctors and let them check out the players. So it's evolved a little bit, and each team does it a little bit different. I don't think the Bucs are sending all their coaches, by the way. I was on the plane, essentially. God forbid if something had happened, I would have been like in the, also killed. But like the whole organization was on there. Jason Light, most of the front office, the scouting department, a number of coaches as well. So we all flew up on Southwest at about 7:10 this morning, or yesterday morning, as you guys listen to this podcast. And it begins in earnest tomorrow with the interviews, coaches, GMs. I think Todd Bowles is set to talk later at 1:30 because he's on the competition committee, and then Jason Light is going to go about 11, and then we'll get them off to the side after that. And I got a flight back at like 5:30, so I'm just up and back on this trip. One of the things that came up, though, and it's a proposal. What was it, Steve? Which team is trying to outlaw the push tush?
The Packers are the ones reportedly that submitted to the competition committee a rule to eliminate the tush push.
Interesting. And I'm not surprised. And again, Todd Bowles sits on that committee, which is interesting because if I had to guess, I think Todd Bowles would say, well, we stopped it 3 times. I think that would be his sort of response as well. It seems kind of punitive because there's a couple teams. Really, Philadelphia has mastered it. Buffalo is very close, though. Buffalo is the second team that, with a quarterback like Allen that can, really get some momentum. His big guy does a lot of quarterback sneaks and things. Here's my thought about the tush push. Certainly, if you're going to outlaw something that's targeted, it seems very targeted towards the Eagles because they're the ones that perfected it and they're the ones that started it, and they're also the Super Bowl champions. So there are definitely some sour grapes here, but I will allow that there are some teams, and maybe this is BS, I don't know, but I think there are some teams that are concerned about the safety of this play. Here's my take on it. It's not a football play. It's a rugby play. If you're going to allow people to come from behind the quarterback, you know, the ball snapped to the quarterback, and he's the one that tries to score. So in essence, it's a quarterback sneak, but it's not, because if you're going to allow guys if you're going to allow the push behind the tush, that's what makes it a rugby scrum. Okay, and if you're connected to the ground, the defense will try to do stupid stuff like fly over the top and all this. As soon as you lose the ground, the earth, physics will tell you've lost the battle, right? So the offensive line is connected to the ground. The quarterback never leaves his feet. If you watch how they perfected it. The low man wins, all that. And then you get the push from behind with other guys also connected to the earth. And so, for the most part, it's almost unstoppable. Almost, except the Bucs have probably stopped it more times than any team. But I still think when I watch it, Steve, it doesn't feel like football. If you want to snap the ball to the quarterback and plow forward, I'm all for it. But as soon as they allowed other players to get behind the guy and push him forward, now I don't think we're playing football.
Well, I didn't, and I know in college it used to be you couldn't push from behind anybody, not just a
Right.
quarterback, not like
Remember
in that
the Reggie
situation.
Bush? Remember the
Mhm.
Reggie Bush with Matt Leinart thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now they allow it, but at one point it was not allowed. I don't remember in the NFL when that may have changed or whatever else. But
Yeah.
does anyone get excited seeing a tush push? And not that that should be the end all be all of whether a play is allowed or not, but there are some legit safety concerns.
I
But
agree with that.
at that point, I mean, if it's going to be that close, why don't we just give automatic first downs if you're within a yard or something? I mean, they've eliminated the kickoff essentially for safety reasons in this. To me, that the tush push has got to be one of the most dangerous plays for injuries. I don't know if we've seen many from it, but just the mass of humanity pushing at each other both ways, guys on the ground, et cetera, it just seems like if you're truly concerned about safety, which they say they are, and some of the things they've done over the course of time now, from targeting penalties to the kickoffs, eliminating to all this stuff, then that's a play they've got to look at least. I mean, the Eagles perfected it and good on them, and it's helped them win a Super Bowl with it. They're very successful at it and get extra possessions out of it. Good on them. But I'm not, I know you're very against the tush push. I don't like it, but if it stays, I'm okay with it. But
yeah,
there's some hypocriticalness to it.
I don't want to say that like I like get it out of the game. Like I'm not like so overboard. Some people are just like it should not be. It's not fair. It shouldn't be in the game. There's definitely the team that won the Super Bowl is the team that does it the best, and they perfected it. And so there's some sour grapes here when you go, we can't stop it. Well, okay. So if it was your team, would you want it out of the league? Probably not. Okay. If your team was winning Lombardi trophies with it, you wouldn't be calling for to get rid of the tush push. For me, even before they won the Super Bowl this last time, I just felt like it's a gimmick thing that, doesn't resemble football, right? Like to get a guy behind a guy, or actually two running backs to get behind the guy and shove him forward. And again, I think, Philadelphia has the advantage because they have a great offensive line. The center, no, the problem is, and the advantage is to the offense because they know when they're going to snap the ball. And so if you're one tick off as a defense, you'll see defensive guys try to jump the snap because it's the only way they feel they can defeat it. And really, when they know when the ball is going to be snapped, that's their advantage. And it is really difficult because as soon as you leave, if you leap, if you do anything like that, you're going to lose traction. I just don't know when we got to the point where we thought we needed two guys behind a player to push him forward. If you just eliminated that part, then it's a quarterback sneak, which we've been used to in football forever. I just don't. I just don't think it's a football play. And I do wonder in my own mind, like if Philadelphia hadn't mastered this so well, would I feel the same way? And I think I would because I don't enjoy watching it. You know what I mean? But when you think about the analytics in football and going for it on fourth down as much as the Eagles have, and the trend being that way, like this is the reason, right? Like if they're 4th and 2, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's way over 50. And, for them, that's their advantage. You gotta stop a team 4 times to get the ball back. That's much different. So, it's been the Eagles' recipe for success, and if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm like, "Come on, man. This is just, you know, trying to stop a team that's good at something that you can't do." Buffalo's also very good at it, so I would think that they would be, opposed to banning this, but I don't know where it's gonna go. I think teams will kinda show their biases and their, sort of what they think about it if they do get it to a vote. And I'm not sure, Todd Bowles, like I said, he did a good job of finding a way to try to contain it, stopped it 2 or 3 times, I think, that they played Philadelphia. So it can be stopped, but it's not easy. And, they also have a 365-pound, defensive tackle named Vita Vea who's sitting over the center, and, can get some push and whatnot. But it's interesting to me that, you know, one of the things that have come up is that, yeah, we need to outlaw. Now, the safety part of it, I think I remember, was it the Super Bowl? Maybe one of the Kansas City Chiefs came out of the game after the tush push that they didn't stop, and he had a neck injury. He ended up finishing the game, but it was an interior lineman. I can't remember who it was exactly. But you can see where, if you got to get that low and you're button heads and, there's that much force, behind the Philadelphia Eagles where you could get yourself in a probably a bad position from an injury standpoint. One of the things I noticed about coming to Indianapolis is they have the Center City Mall, and boy, I don't know what's going on because I don't know Indianapolis, commercial real estate that well, but it has shrunk. I mean, this is a big building with a lot of empty spaces, and that's sad. But you know what's not sad is if you go to International Plaza Mall and you go upstairs, you're going to go to Breitling Boutique, and that's one of the signature stores in that mall. They've been there for 5 years at International Plaza, and you want to talk about a great Swiss watchmaker. Breitling has been in business for over 140 something years. They've been at International Plaza, as I said, the last 5. Now, go in there, and if you're a sports fan, if you're a football fan, check out their NFL watches. They're celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary with a limited collection of all 32 team watches. These things are beautiful. They're chronomat watches. They got the colors of the team on the face along with the logo. Whether you're a Bucs fan, there might be, it's limited, so there might be 1 or 2 left, but make sure you get down there. But if you're a fan of any NFL team, they might be able to hook you up with a beautiful Breitling chronomat watch with your NFL team. And then also, maybe you have a wife or a girlfriend. They also do women's watches. As the sports watches are fantastic. These things are beautiful and durable. If your wife is like mine, she's on the go, she's taking the kids everywhere. These things will hold up and they look absolutely stunning. And they got all kinds of different wristbands and colored wristbands and everything that she likes. So please go to Breitling Boutique. Take some time because when you go there, you're going to notice that the customer service is second to none. They got a bar there, have a drink. They're going to tell you about all their terrific watches. And you're probably going to run into a Buccaneer or a Rays player or somebody because they deal with a lot of professional athletes and celebrities, and they'll treat you like a celebrity as well. It's Breitling Boutique, upstairs, center of the mall, International Plaza. Make sure that when you go, you tell them that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So I was driving back from somewhere the other day and had the Rays radio on, and I heard that Caminero was up, and I was like, "Well, this will be good. Let's see what he does." He got down 2 strikes, and so you're thinking, "Okay, well, he's just going to try to protect here, make some contact." He hit a bomb. Just it was a no doubter. It was one of those where I don't know, it was Andy Fried or Neil or somebody was just like, "There it is, long and deep to left field." And then I saw the replay of it. The and let me just say this, even on the radio, okay, when you're driving on a highway and you hear you got the radio on, but you hear a sound like a large, like a bang, like it's not the little, the ball sounds so different coming off his bat. Like he just crushed it. I'm telling you, this guy has rare bat speed, rare power. if he figures it out, right? If he organizes the strike zone, as Joe Madden would say, and is a guy that can, you know, adjust to how they're going to throw him. I mean, what is he? 22, 23 years old, something like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, he's young and loves the spotlight and wants the spotlight and wants every bit of that. And you're right; it sounds different coming off his bat. I mean, we saw that last year in the little bit he was called up. I mean, hit the ball off the bat speed and the sound it made was different than almost everybody else on the team.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And you can hear that sound, and so, you know, I mean, you don't need much, right? If you get a guy like that develops into into a franchise type superstar everyday player, and for the brief time, like they talked about his defense, Steve, and that was one of the reasons why maybe he wasn't up sooner. But if you remember when he came up, he made some great plays, right? Coming in on slow tappers, bunts, things like that. Um, Obviously, you got to be consistent and do it every play. But he has the ability to make the spectacular play, which some guys just don't, right? So he's a unique athlete. I'm excited to see him play a full season. What can he do if he could play 150 games?
Well, this team's going to need it. I mean, and we talked about this last year when we thought they should have called him up. Of course, he got hurt for part of the season, which impacted some of it. But I know the defensive side's a concern, and it's he's not Taylor Walls. He's not that type of defender. But with that type of bat, sometimes you got to sacrifice a little defense because the Rays had no thump in their bats last year at all.
No.
And that's something they need to have this year. They've got to score more runs than whatever it was, 605 or 4, whatever it was, 606. The lowest in baseball outside the White Sox, who were just putrid, won like 40 games. I mean, that's the team you're comparing your offense to. Like, so even if his defense isn't quite up to where they'd like it to be, I don't care. You got to have him in the lineup. And if he can play 150 games, you hope that he's going to have a monster rookie season, or his rookie year was used up last year. He had enough at bats or games, but first full season in the big leagues.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the great thing about youth is that they tend not to get hurt as much in general. So he's got that on his side. He'll bounce back quicker and all that. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him be able to play 150 games. You see what he can do, and there's always a process, right? Like Joe Madden used to talk about. Guys will come up, and they think they belong there, and then they're only there for a short period of time, and they come back, and eventually you get to the point where like it clicks, and you're like, no, I belong here. Like I know, and I think he has enough confidence. And he knows he belongs to the big leagues too. But you make the adjustments, and all of a sudden, um, they can't get you out, and so that if he approaches that, you'll take maybe not a Gold Glove at third base. You could have a potential Gold Glove at shortstop. Obviously, Taylor Walls can play great defense, but um, they've got a new player there that they can insert at sometime after the first month. So, like all of a sudden, we saw what Wander Franco could do, right? How he changed the lineup, and we may never see Wander again in baseball, much less with the Rays. But he was the special sauce, right? When you can extend the lineup with a talent like that. And so I'm wondering if Caminero can kind of be that guy to kind of help them do that. And Danny Jensen, by the way, has got a little bit of pop too.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely expecting more production out of the catcher spot. In addition, they
Yeah.
like Danny behind the plate and managing the pitching staff and the experience he brings, and including the experience he brings playing in Dunedin and Buffalo in the COVID year with the Blue Jays and having to play different places and not your normal home park. They like so much of that experience, but offensively, he should give you a lot more pop that we probably haven't seen since Zanino in that position, to be honest.
That's a great point. And then the other day, I think maybe it was in the opener at the Steinbrenner Field. Josh Lowe, I think, had a double or a base hit to left center, and that was a good sign because when he was really rolling, he was hitting the balls to all fields, including left field. That's the guy that needs to come back. That's the guy that in that short perch in right field with the Yankee Stadium dimensions at Steinbrenner could really make a difference for them. And So offensively, I don't think they have to score a lot of runs. They never have had to, and this is arguably on paper one of the best pitching staffs they've ever had. Certainly with the potential of 6 starters. Injuries have always been a thing with the Rays, and it will be again, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, I mean, maybe they can spackle enough offense, and you just need one of those guys to develop into a bona fide superstar, which I think they have a chance to do.
Mhm.
I'm still excited about this. I like outdoor baseball. I think it's in Tampa. The first half of the year is heavily weighted towards home games and all of that. And they I think they've got the arms. They can play Rays baseball, but I think guys will be energized if the weather's not oppressive and in April and May. Certainly when they get to June and July and they start going on the road to make up for that, they got to get off to a good start. But I'm still thinking this is going to be a unique year, an energizing thing, and I think the players will embrace it. And we'll see what happens. But what are they? What, 1-2? I think in spring to a score doesn't mean anything. Pitching a lot of guys that aren't going to be here and that sort of thing.
Have you seen
Baeza,
Chandler Stevenson run?
yeah. Oh my God, I was going to mention him. So this guy, uh, what are they thinking he's going to start in AAA this year?
I think he finished in Double A last year, so he could either continue in Double A or maybe a Triple A.
I mean, he's Vince Coleman, right? Like he's that guy that if he hits the ball on the ground to the left side, you're not getting him. I mean, on a routine play, it's unbelievable. There's fast, and then there's just pure disruptive. Did I see where he stole over 100 bases?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that is not mortal, right? And then now that you've made the bases, the bags a little bigger, um, talk about disruptive. And they think that'll play, even in the game of analytics where, so much is about home runs, strikeouts aren't bad, like all that stuff. They can play some small ball because it's like he's going to hit you a triple. If he gets on first,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to steal second, and he's going to be on third in about 2 pitches. And that changes the pressure that puts on the pitcher, on the defense, on everybody out there is immense, you know. And to have a talent like that, they probably haven't had a guy like that since what, Carl Crawford, who probably had a little more power. This guy doesn't.
I think Crawford definitely had more power. I mean, think about this in a postseason game. Okay, you're in the postseason game. You're down a run. I don't know. Yandy Diaz gets a single, gets on, and then you pinch run Stevenson.
Oh, huge weapon. Yeah.
I mean, think about that. I mean, that's how Kevin Kiermaier made his debut. Was in game 163.
There you go.
And they brought him up basically to be a pinch runner in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was fast and they wanted some extra speed in a one game. You don't need as many pitchers in that situation because it's one game and that. So they called him up. I mean, that in the postseason he becomes even a bigger weapon if he's not already starting for you or something. On your roster, like to have that weapon on the bench that you can pull out in the 7th, 8th, 6th inning when you need a run, like and you get a guy on first. Wow.
Yeah, he's a wild player for sure, and it's gonna be fun to watch. So, I mean, I'm old school. I like old school baseball. I like, I remember all those Cardinal teams that used to win. Not with the long ball, but the big ballpark and going gap to gap and stealing bases and playing great defense. And so, not that you're going to change the game and make it old school again, but as the Rays have said, like we still think that this is a weapon, right? You can win
Mm-hmm.
this way with a guy who's uniquely talented, doesn't have to hit the ball very far, just has to make contact and put so much pressure on the defense like that. He's a weapon, and that's what you want. You want guys that can change the game. Speaking of changing the game, the Tampa Bay Lightning are continue their role. They had this big break, for the tournament, and John Cooper and so many of his players were involved in it. But they picked up where they left off. What was it? 5 in a row, 6 in a row?
5 in a row. That's a season-long win streak. Now, I would say the first period and a half on Sunday night, they look like a team that had 2 weeks off, a little rusty. I think guys were rested, but I think you just kind of get out of that rhythm and flow. But the good thing is Andre Vasilevsky didn't look that way and kept them in that game, and then they ended up going on to win 4-1 over the Kraken. not a great team. But 5 in a row, you're now in you're I think 3 points behind second place Florida in the division right now with 2 games in hand on them, and you're 4 points behind Toronto for first place in the division, and you have a game in hand on them. So right there at the now it's not talking about the wild card slots. Now you're looking at, could they overtake first place in this division if they keep playing well? And Andre Vasilevsky looked like he was. Brendan Hagel, a tremendous shorthanded goal on Sunday night. Ryan McDonough, a great pass to feed him to break him loose. And Lightning now get Edmonton in tonight, who's coming off 2 losses after the Four Nations break. They got smoked by Washington the other day, so they're going to be hungry tonight. The game tonight, by the way, not on FanDuel Sports Network. It's an ESPN Plus, so you got to have an ESPN Plus subscription to watch the game tonight.
Yeah, well, I do, and I will be if I get a chance. If it might be on an airplane, we'll see. But yeah, no, they play really well, and they beat a Seattle team that had played the night before. So Seattle, they were coming off the Bucs, the Lightning were coming off the break, but Seattle was also coming off a break, but they had played at least one game, and so
they beat Florida the night before. So
yeah, and so they had a little jump on them. You know what I mean? I think the first period or so, it took them a while to get their legs under them, and then off they went. And of course, Vasilevsky kept them in it. He's been great. As long as you have that guy, that monster in net, you're going to have a chance. And when you can stack wins like this, man, this is not an easy thing to do in the NHL. And they were so hot going into that break that to win coming out of it is huge. So that was fun to watch. Hey, we'll have tomorrow a chance to talk to Todd Bowles, Jason Licht at the Indiana Convention Center for the NFL Combine. Both those guys will be available to us. I think Jason goes around 11 a.m. Todd Bowles about 1:30 p.m. because he's part of that competition committee, as you remember, discussing the Tush Push. And it'll be fun to see what he has to say about it because his defense has actually stopped it a few times. So make sure you check out TampaBay.com and the Tampa Bay Times for all the latest on that. And one more time, make sure you go to International Plaza and check out Breitling Boutique. They're upstairs, center of the mall. If you're looking for a watch or just a great gift for your wife or your boyfriend or your husband or your girlfriend, this is where you want to go. They have a great collection of watches, the Navitimers, the Chronomats, including they're celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. 32 team watches, limited edition, each one with the team's colors, their logo. You have to see these things, and you can go to our website and TampaBay.com and see them. They're absolutely beautiful as they last, and you got to get there fast because they've been selling these things since before Christmas. But they also have other watches that you're going to enjoy, including for your wife or your girlfriend. I mentioned the sports watches, all kinds of wristbands. They're durable. They're absolutely stunning. Go to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall, and make sure you let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening from Indianapolis. I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.